Good day, and welcome to the podcast. We are starting a bit differently because the whole podcast is going to be differently. Session 27 was a success, but unfortunately, the footage recorded is somehow having a very big error, and I can't make it into a podcast, which means I am going to recap what happened in this short episode. Um, the good thing is that the majority of chapter 27 was a battle between the adventurers and the ambush that they had on Triboar Trail. This took almost 2 to 2.5 hours. It was an intense battle, but I'm not sure if that would eventually have been nice to listen to. Anyways, after that, they traveled to Phandalin, and then there was a bit of talking discussion, which is quite some interesting information, so I will put that out there as well. So I have no idea how long this podcast is going to take. My thoughts, just 15 minutes, uh, because I'm going to tell you how the battle a bit developed and how it went, and then the conversation that happened afterwards. I'm going to recap, and then let's hope that for chapter 28 everything will be working again and everything will be fine. So good. Thank you for appreciating or understanding um, that this chapter is going to be different than others. Welcome to a Dungeons and Dragons podcast, Adventures of the Sword Coast, with Azarea Nerikirel, an elf cleric, Sephion, an Asimar paladin, Daimos the trickster, a half-elf warlock, Draco Amethius, a dragonborn ranger, myself Dan, as your dungeon master. Please enjoy chapter 27, The Battle of Triboar Trail. Rain falls with heavy force from the skies. The clouds are so thick that they block the sun. The Triboar Trail has changed into a muddy road, and on this muddy road, 3 poles are sticking in the ground with dried blood on the wood. One head on each pole, Rosara Twilightstep, a female halfling from Lylon who used to work at the Dusty Gnome Tavern. Fasati the Bard, a female elf who was a master in playing her violin, and Nimble Snow, a tabaxi chef that used to work at the casino in Neverwinter. These 3 were hired by Azarea, Sephion, Daimos, and Draco to come and work for them in their newly found Phandalin gambling hut. And it is here, on the Triboar Trail, where the group of adventurers are standing a few feet away from the scene. Completely shocked and very angry at the creatures surrounding the 3 poles, multiple bugbears and ogres come out from the bushes, bugbears smashing their morning stars in their hands, ready to attack, and the ogres looking at them with their great club loose over their shoulder. And at this point, I would say, adventurers, throw for initiative to avenge your former staff members. Of course, the adventurers throw for initiative, and the battle against the bugbears and the ogres would start. The whole intro I typed out in Word, and that's what I read then. But for now, the whole battle and everything that occurred is just going to come straight from my head. I didn't write anything down, so please bear with me. The battle starts. There are several bugbears in front of the group, with 2 ogres standing in front of these bugbears. They are surrounding the poles with their heads, and to the opposite, we have Azarea, Sephion, Daimos, and Draco. Behind them, you have 2 cards. One card with Oakbelt, the carpenter, and in the other card, we have Rowena Rosetree. We call it Daimos' love, who is hiding in the card. Then also we have Gwath, and the cards are being pulled by Sephion's horse and an ox from Oakbelt. We start fighting. The bugbears are throwing several javelins at Sephion's feet, Daimos' feet. Some hit some, but most of them they don't hit. Funny part is that there's actually a bugbear getting closer to Sephion and gets hit by a javelin from another bugbear. So they are also hitting themselves. There are ogres that rush in towards Sephion because Sephion is getting more to the front. With an armor class of 21, Sephion is very strong and handling everything very good, even though he gets damaged and get hit quite a lot, which means that at one point it was necessary for him to get more health from his pool of a paladin. Otherwise, he might even have had died in this battle. Um, Unfortunately, there were casualties in this battle. It was the first time that Gwat started fighting, but unfortunately, Gwat died during the battle. Um, Azarea, of course, was not happy with this, but things just happen in Dungeons and Dragons. Also, Drax from Draco did not survive, but luckily for Draco, Drax can be cast again, and then there he is again. Um, Good. So on the sides in the bushes, there are still more bugbears hiding from them. So when they attack from the side, they have advantage. So some javelins indeed hit the group. Then there were more even down next to the carts. There were like bugbears and ogres hiding in the bushes, waiting to close them in. The tactics that the bugbears and the ogres had was to lure the group more towards the poles, so that they would close them in from the back and that they would all be surrounded by ogres and bugbears. But unfortunately, before Gwat passed away, um, he sniffed out a large group that was hiding in the bushes. So the plan to block them from the back was failed by Gwat. Nevertheless, Dymus uses the charge of his wand once. So that's 3 times now in the whole campaign. He's still got 4 left, in my opinion, before the wand vanishes. Unless he doesn't use all the 7 charges before he can bring the fires of the Forge of Spells to Balthazar. If that even is an option to take the fires there. But we don't know if Balthazar knows how the fires are created. So the battle goes on, and it is a tough battle. I think it's one of the hardest battles the group has done. Even the dragon was easier than this because there were 16 bugbears and there were 4 ogres. And at one point, even Sephion was completely surrounded by several bugbears and ogres. But the dice from the dungeon master were not rolling very high, so they were very lucky. Plus, Sephion has a very high armor class, which means that he deflected and a lot of the attacks and missed. And the bugbears missed a lot of the attacks. After the battle, because the group wins this battle, they destroy 16 bugbears and 4 ogres. Azarea, meanwhile, has revived Gwath. She uses stabilizing the death or some spell like that to stabilize Gwath, and then he's being more revived. But he's been put in the cart to take them to Phandalin. 2 bugbears did not die. Draco did on purpose knock them unconscious, and they have been tied up to the back of the cart, and they were being dragged along with the group back to Phandalin. It is late at night at this point. It has been raining very heavily because we are now in the middle of autumn. Fall has come, and it's getting colder. The days are getting shorter, and it's getting more and more. It's gonna rain. So also this day was pouring rain. The whole scene in this Triboar Trail, this battle it was muddy, it was dirty, there was so much rain falling from the sky, it was dark. But now at the end of the battle, it was completely dark because it turned into night. So they traveled to Phandalin. While they traveled to Phandalin, we have Sephion asking Rowana Roastree about the 3 people that were stacked on top of the pole, because it was Rowana who has seen these people leave Neverwinter, which she told Dymus. What she also told Dymus is that there was another figure with them, but Dymus didn't respond in that in chapter 26. But Sephion asked her, like, these 3 on the poles, were these also the 3 that left Neverwinter. And she replies to him that there were actually two more. A certain gentleman with a high, posh voice, a very posh gentleman, with a bit gray hair, and the group figures out that that must be Justice, the other person they hired from the casino from Neverwinter. But they are not familiar with a fifth person. So Sephion asks, like, who's this fifth person you're talking about? Who is this Jivril? Because she calls him Jivril. She says that it's a very nice, gentle figure. He always gives great tip. He's always been very gentle. He's always been very respectful. He's a very common customer in the Beach Leviathan where she used to work, and he has also a lot of meetings, personal meetings up in the Beach Leviathan away from her with the boss of the Beach Leviathan, which his name is I can't really remember what his name was, but her boss, the owner of the Beach Leviathan, sometimes had these meetings with him. Nevertheless, she trusted him. So that when she tells that he actually came to them and said like, "Hey, I can take them to Phandalin because the group of adventurers they asked me if I can guide them." When they ask her what does he look like, she says, "Well, he's like this darkish elf, a drow elf. He has scars in his face, black skin, white hair, so typical drow elf." And the group makes the connection in their head that this might be the druid drow elf, the imposter that was in Thunder Tree Ruins that escaped, the druid that pretended to be the druid Rydot. So they think that now this evil creature, the drow elf, has led them into the ambush. Then they arrive at Phandalin. They see Phandalin on the horizon. And normally, when it's even at night or dark, you see the blinkering of lights in the windows. You see some fumes coming from the chimneys. But the rain is so heavy. But even through the rain, they see that the majority of Phandalin, or even whole Phandalin, is completely dark. It's not even fumes coming from the chimneys. And the more they get closer to it, they get into town, and they see that it looks like a ghost town. There's nobody out on the street. A few of the houses have even wooden planks in front of the windows. They don't hear sounds like voices. It looks like it's a complete ghost town. And they decide to continue on through Phandalin and go to their own gambling hut, which was the former Sleeping Giant. And when they arrive at the Sleeping Giant, thank God they are so happy to see that their building is intact. It's not destroyed. It's still there, how it was when they left. But when they get closer, they see that there are writings on the walls and windows. Writings such as betrayers and stay away. We don't want you here. Get out of Phandalin. Betrayers. Thanks for nothing. That's what's written on the buildings, and that's where we ended the session. So I think that that's also where I'm now gonna end the podcast. I think we're almost at the 15-minute mark. This is gonna be the shortest session ever. Um, as I said, if I could have used the footage, it would have been a 2.5 hour session only battling. I'm not sure how fun that is to listen to. So looking back at it, it's not a very bad thing, even though there were some nice, funny jokes in between and everything. You know how we are with the sounds in the background and stuff. But hey, this Wednesday, the 1st of May, we're going to have our chapter 28, and I'm going to try to do my best to get it up in the air as soon as possible. I would like to thank you once again for understanding the error that has occurred with recording the session, and I hope you still enjoyed this little recap of chapter 27. And now I need to go and drink something because my mouth is dry. See you in chapter 28.